Hi, so the legs are nearly done, and what I want to show you here is this sort of ankle armor at the base of the leg. The way that it comes with the kit is that it's actually two pieces, and it wraps nearly all the way around. There's a sort of a gap right in the back where the stabilizer sort of can fit in. But the two pieces join at the front, and of course you don't want them to look like two pieces, you want it to look like one piece that wraps around. And the other complication is that there are different colors above and below the line and the join. And as I've said before, I don't really care too much for masking if I can avoid it. So I want to show you what I did to make it so that I could avoid masking. Here are the original pieces. And of course, they don't really fit together, too incredibly solidly. They just go together at that point right there, and that's it. So it leaves it with a pretty big seam line at a kind of a noticeable spot right in the front of the foot. So what I figured out to do was to here's the finished piece from the other foot, and you can see, for comparison, this piece has a closed slot for the tab. This is the tab that fits there. Yes, just like that, right? So it's nice and flush. Okay, and there's a similar tab and slot on the other side. So what I did was I set it up. I chopped out the top of that slot so that I could slide this tab into that slot, and then very carefully bend this and set it into position. And that enables it as a final assembly to be quite steady on there. And I'm also able to paint this part, which I have done, and you can see that I've also puttied and sanded the seam line between the two parts. So I'm going to try to show you how I did that. Basically what you want to do is you want to open up the top of the slot by removing that bit of plastic from there. So with your nippers, carefully go in there and chop at each side. And then go through sort of chipping out bits. And at this point I'm going to go silent for a minute so I can speed up this process. Okay, so then after you've removed the majority of the plastic, so it's pretty well open, took this very fine Dremel bit, and it's better to put the tool on high, and then just chew out the remaining plastic. And then you probably also want to use just a file, a needle file, to trim it till it's smooth. Now you'll see that I have scraped away the remaining rough bits of plastic so that the top of that slot is now open, but it's still there to hold on to the tab from the leg part. And you'll also notice, as the pieces are fit together, that there's quite a big gap there. Actually, not so bad at the top of the piece, but quite considerable on the underside of the piece. So in addition to the normal sort of gluing and sanding that I would do to smooth that out, I also applied several thin layers built up of the light curing putty to smooth out that sort of notch that's in the thing that you may have noticed on the back of the leg. Instead of using the vinyl, the kind of stiff vinyl tubing that came with the kit right here, on the back of the knee, what I did was I went to a bead shop and bought some of this. It's called Chinese knotting cord, and I stiffened it by dipping it in super glue, cyanoacrylate glue, because one of the problems I was having when I first started clipping it was that it would come undone at the edge, get kind of frayed at the ends, which was no good. So I stiffened it with super glue and then snipped short pieces and bent them, and because at that point they're quite stiff with the super glue, they hold in place nicely. And I clipped off what were originally the pegs to fit this hollow vinyl tubing over. I don't know if you can see that it's hollow. I clipped off the pegs and just applied a dot of super glue at the end of each what are meant to simulate cables. And I think it looks better. It has a more of a texture to it than the vinyl tubing did. It looks less like a plasticky toy and more like actual scaled down cables this way. And here you see how the leg finally fits together as an entire piece.